The siblings Kaoru and her big brother Tsuyoshi are driving to visit Kaoru's friend Izumi. Kaoru mocks Tsuyoshi that he only offered to drive Kaoru because he wants to see Izumi. The horny Tsuyoshi talks himself out of it by pretending that he just wants to look after his little sister. As they are driving to Izumi's village, which is located in the middle of nowhere, Kaoru tells her brother to slow down a bit as he doesn't have his driver's license for that long. He doesn't really care and keeps driving. On the road, Kaoru gets confused with the map and Tsuyoshi grabs it to have a look at where they are. As Tsuyoshi looks at the map instead of focusing on the road, a girl appears suddenly on the road. Tsuyoshi hits the brakes but the car still hits the girl. They run to look after the girl, but don't see any sign of life. The siblings put her into the back of their car as they prepare to drive to the nearest hospital, but as Kaoru takes a closer look at the girl, she notices that the girl isn't breathing and doesn't have a heartbeat. She died. Tsuyoshi hits the gas and drives to the village. He explains Kaoru that they need to find a place to bury her without anyone noticing. Kaoru isn't a fan of the idea, but doesn't comment, as she has no better idea what to do in such a situation. As they are driving through the town, they come across a tomb right in the middle of the road. Tsuyoshi wonders who the hell would place a tomb in such an unsuitable place and drives past it. But as they drive, they notice that the whole street is filled with tombs. With no other choice left, Tsuyoshi decides to reverse the car to get out of there. But with his perfect driving skills he drives straight into the tomb he avoided just a couple seconds ago, causing it to fall over. Tsuyoshi checks on his car and the townspeople immediately crowd him and say that he needs a car jack to be able to move his car again. He hesitantly opens the trunk and gets the car jack out really fast without anyone noticing that there is a dead girl inside of it. The townspeople help Tsuyoshi to free his car, and he asks them what the deal with the tombstones is. They explain that the tombstones are there because the people died in those exact spots. Tsuyoshi doesn't quite understand what they mean by that, but lets it be as Izumi shows up and greets her friends. Izumi invites her friends inside her house and tells them that she was worried because of how late they were. Tsuyoshi makes up an excuse because of the tombs, while looking at the trunk of his car in a suspicious way. At Izumi's place, she explains to the siblings that it took her some time to get used to the tombs. Izumi shows them the grave of the person that lived here before them. She tells them that this person took their last breath at this very spot. Kaoru asks if it's a tradition to put a tombstone where a person drew their last breath, but Izumi just confirms vaguely and asks them why they are looking so worried and if something is wrong. Tsuyoshi explains that they had a long drive and are kind of worn out, and Kaoru agrees. Izumi offers to show the siblings around town as there is still some time left until dinner time and they agree. As they walk around town, Tsuyoshi notices the gravestones everywhere and Izumi comments that they carry people on the brink of death to an empty lot for them to die. Tsuyoshi still doesn't get why they erect a tombstone in the exact spot a person has died, but Izumi mentions that it can't be helped, and that things just are this way around here. As they come by a hospital, they witness medical personnel rushing an elderly patient outside as he is about to die. Izumi explains that this is their way of treating dying people, as it's better that the tombstone is in an empty space than inside the hospital. Later, as they walk along the road, they notice a dying cat which has probably been hit by a car. Tsuyoshi wants to bury it, but Izumi warns him not to touch it. She tells him that the cat won't be able to rest in peace if someone touches it or moves it. Apparently there is going to be a tombstone, even for a cat. After a while they look over a field of graves and, Izumi asks Kaoru if she is alright, because she seems so distant the whole time. Kaoru lies that she is just carsick and dizzy, as Tsuyoshi gives her an angry look. They decide to head back to the house so Kaoru can get some rest before dinner. At home, Izumi's mother brings them a glass of juice and asks Izumi if she knows where her little sister Ayumi is, as she should be home already. Izumi says that Ayumi took a walk in the mountains this morning and that she isn't gone this long normally. It's nighttime now, and Ayumi still hasn't come home. Her father tells Ayumi's mother to call the police and takes off to look for her in the mountains, as he thinks that Ayumi might have gotten lost. Tsuyoshi sneakily asks Kaoru to describe what Ayumi looks like. Kaoru describes her slim figure and her braids as Tsuyoshi starts to realize that the girl they accidentally killed was Izumi's sister. Tsuyoshi pressures her sister to stay quiet and assures her that they will find a way out of the problem they caused. The next day, the whole town looks for Ayumi with the help of the police. As no one is able to find her, they speculate that Ayumi maybe fell into the old well. Just to be sure, the search party goes to take a look at the old well. As the villager looks inside the well, he explains to Tsuyoshi and Kaoru that no one knows who dug it but that it's so deep that no one knows how far down it really goes. The local legend says that corpses that couldn't rest peacefully were thrown down into this well. Tsuyoshi asks what exactly he means by not resting peacefully, but the villager just tells him to look at the elderly person that died yesterday. This way, Tsuyoshi will understand what he means. Tsuyoshi and Kaoru immediately make their way to the hospital and overhear the relatives of the deceased talk about the stone growing nicely and that the person hadn't been disturbed in their death, luckily. Tsuyoshi and Kaoru can't believe what they are seeing. The old man that died yesterday has started to grow into a tombstone. That's also the reason why the graves are all in such weird places. Kaoru and Tsuyoshi can't believe what they just saw as they walk back to Izumi's home. As if everything is just a long bad dream. As they arrive, the siblings notice someone peeking into Tsuyoshi's car. It's Izumi. As they walk closer, Tsuyoshi asks if something is wrong with his car, and Izumi mentions that she was just looking. Tsuyoshi asks if there are any news about Ayumi, and Izumi tells him that there have been skid marks found on the road near the mountain, and also bloodstains as well as paint from a car, and that the police are currently investigating the findings. Tsuyoshi stutters that it's very unlikely that Ayumi would have been hit by a car, but Izumi just asks the two siblings to rest for a while in their rooms as Izumi has something to take care of, as she rides away. Kaoru looks inside the car and sees bloodstains on the backseat. That must have been what Izumi was looking at. Kaoru starts to panic as she realizes that the police are on their tail, and Tsuyoshi tries to comfort her. Later at night, Kaoru, Tsuyoshi and Izumi are sitting together and talk about Ayumi. Kaoru asks if it could be possible that Ayumi somehow died while on her morning walk. But Izumi fears that Ayumi got somehow killed and that her body now gets dragged around, which would lead to Ayumi not being able to die in peace. She also recalls of the one time a deceased person couldn't die in peace, so the townspeople threw the person down the well, as they had no other choice left. Izumi is desperate and asks the two if they saw anything strange when they came here, but just as Kaoru wanted to confess everything, Tsuyoshi interrupts her and apologizes to Izumi for picking such a bad time to come for a visit. Tsuyoshi says that he doesn't want to burden Izumi and her family, so he decides to pack everything up and leave the town tonight. Later, as Tsuyoshi and Kaoru leave town, Kaoru asks her brother to turn themselves in, but Tsuyoshi has a better idea. He wants to get rid of the evidence. They arrive at the old well and Tsuyoshi explains that he wants to throw Ayumi down the well. Kaoru isn't very enthusiastic about this idea, but her brother just tells Kaoru that they have no other choice. Tsuyoshi makes his way to the trunk of the car, and as he opens it, he sees what happens to people in this town that don't get to die in peace. Ayumi's body is half covered in stone and looks very badly disfigured. Kaoru checks up on Tsuyoshi, and as she sees Ayumi's body, she can't believe what she is seeing. Tsuyoshi pressures Kaoru to help him carry the body to the well. As they lift the heavy body into the well, Ayumi's bracelet slides off of her arm and the body disappears in the depth of it. Tsuyoshi breathes a sigh of relief, saying that it's finally over, but Kaoru states that it isn't over and that the guilt of their actions will follow them for the rest of their lives. Tsuyoshi looks at his hand, which he accidentally cut on Ayumi's body, as he suddenly hears a sound coming out from the well. A hand reaches out of the well, and with it Ayumi's body. It somehow became alive and moans in pain. The body bursts out of the well like a snake, with thousands of dead bodies connected to it. Ayumi's body points at Tsuyoshi and calls him guilty of killing her. Tsuyoshi screams for Ayumi to be quiet with guilt in his voice. Kaoru asks him what's wrong, and Tsuyoshi tells her that it's nothing, he just had hallucinations because of his feelings of guilt. They make their way back home in the dark of the night. The next day, Izumi finds the bracelet that slipped off of Ayumi's arm. Back at home, Kaoru gets plagued by feelings of guilt and starts crying. Her brother has it even worse. Tsuyoshi feels immense pain, and as he looks at his hand he sees it partially covered in stone. The stone starts growing over his whole body, which now barely resembles his former self. Kaoru bows down in front of her brother and begs for forgiveness. Izumi's home is empty, with only a testament on the floor and 3 tombstones in front of it. Akasaka is returning to Japan after spending a year working overseas. He is pissed that his former teacher Ogi has lived in his home while he was away, because the house was brand new and he did not want someone else in his home. As he gets inside, he gets overwhelmed by a disgusting smell. And if that wasn't enough, the electricity is cut off. Akasaka enters the living room and sees that the whole room is covered in trash and dirty dishes. The fridge doesn't look too healthy either, it's full of rotten food. Akasaka goes to the bathroom and throws up as he can't hold it in any longer. After emptying his stomach, he gets up and uncovers the bathtub. It's full of disgusting material which almost seems to have a life of its own. Just at that moment someone calls for Akasaka. It's his little brother Seiji. Akasaka doesn't greet him and immediately demands an explanation for the state his house is in. Seiji apologizes and tells his big brother that he didn't expect him to be back so early and that he didn't have time to get the house clean. Akasaka angrily asks if this is the vengeance from his former teacher Rogi for not wanting to lease the house to him. Seiji just admits that it's his fault and uses Akasaka's lost dog as an excuse to leave and look for it. Akasaka is annoyed and starts cleaning his home from all the disgusting filth. Before Akasaka left Japan to work abroad for a year, he made a phone call with his little brother. Seiji explained that the former teacher of them both had an accident which caused his house to burn down and that Akasaka practically has no other choice other than to let him move in, as Rogi's home was being rebuilt. Seiji also adds that Rogi will visit tomorrow and immediately hangs up to Akasaka's disdain. The next day, Rogi comes with his family to talk over the house and to ask permission to move in. He begs Akasaka that he has nowhere to go as he can't live with his relatives until his house is being rebuilt. Akasaka is being pressured by Seiji to agree and even offers to look after the house while he is gone. Back in the present, Akasaka wakes up late at night and looks at the wall's texture. It's full of weird bumps. He walks around and notices the bumps on every wall as if they changed overnight. The next morning, Akasaka asks Seiji to help him clean his house and asks where Rogi is now. Seiji tells him that he has no idea, and that Rogi left without even saying a word. Akasaka mentions that Seiji should look for their old teacher at his rebuilt house, but Seiji mentions that he already looked and that there is only a burned field. Akasaka shows Seiji the state of the house. Every surface is covered in thick mold. The bathroom and the second floor are covered so much that they are completely unusable. Akasaka shouts at Seiji to admit what he knows and pulls him inside, but Seiji gets mortified when he steps on the mold and crawls back outside. Seiji mentions that the house is too similar to Rogi's baby. When Seiji came to the house to look after it, he noticed that the residents started to look more and more like the baby. Their skin was brittle and weirdly textured, as if something was growing on it. Seiji mentions that it could be a type of mold the baby had on its skin, and that it infected the older girl as well. He asks Akasaka to not stay any longer in this house and offers Akasaka to stay with him for a while as he walks away. Akasaka decides to have a last look inside before leaving and walks in. He stumbles over all kinds of organic material and pulls on the doorknob, which leads to the whole door breaking down as if it's really fragile. As he looks inside, horror unfolds in front of him. There's mold unfolding from corpses which seem to be Rogi and his family. Akasaka complains about his itchy skin, brittle and textured like mold. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.